exercise. Sorry, back to Lisa.
It's good. You should keep going. Effective communication. Okay. We work with children with all types of disabilities. These are just a couple of them. I've pretty much seen a child with all of these, really. I've gotten kicked, bitten, puked on, thrown trash cans at. Like, it's pretty tough. But
and the nice thing about that is, if someone throws a trash can at you, is that communication?
Yes.
Yes, most definitely communication. Even vomiting on you is communication. You know, it's that I'm sick and you didn't let me deal with it. So you get the results of it.
But it's all, learning experience.
Go back and talk just a little bit about, I don't think we really talked that much about articulation and swallowing.
Okay, there's slides on each
later
one of
on.
these.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's cool. Let me put, no, that's communication. Okay, language disabilities, which was the first one on the previous slide. This is the slow development of vocabulary or concepts, and it's an inability to distinguish between communication styles and different situations. So if you have poor comprehension skills, I mean, the child is not going to understand the instructions that you're giving them. They're not going to understand what's expected of them, and they're not going to be able to complete the task. If it's something really simple, it's going to be hard for them to express their ideas or learn to read or write or any other thing if they have a language disability.
Now talk to them about the difference between a language disability and being Spanish dominant.
Okay.
Because one of the things I think I mentioned here before is that in the Valley, in Region 1, which is supposed to be the bilingual capital of the country, we have a 20% overrepresentation of language LEP students, limited English proficiency students in special education. And remember from the IDEA and our looking a little bit at special ed law that one of the exclusions for getting into special ed is that your only problem is that you don't speak the English language. Yet, there are 20% of the students sitting, an overrepresentation of 20% of LEP students sitting in special ed, that their only problem is that they don't speak the English language. So.
A lot of this, there's a difference between a language disorder and a language difference. A disorder would occur in both English and Spanish. Like if the child doesn't understand quantitative concepts, they're not going to understand it in Spanish or English. And when a speech pathologist or a diagnostician tests the child, they should be doing it in both languages. They should be doing it more in their dominant language, and they should use that as the basis. Unfortunately, you have children who are assessed in English, but they don't understand English, and they're like, oh, they don't know any of the concepts, and they got like a 0 on expressive and receptive language. They got a 0 because they didn't understand.
Isn't it part of the law that they be tested in their own language?
It is, but how well do you see that law being followed?
Not very well.
But unfortunately, it's not that there are good programs out there at the district level, it's that there are good programs out there at the campus level. So you can have like 10 campuses in one district, where 7 of them are doing a lousy job and 3 of them are doing a great job. And it just depends on where your child happens to live, whether they get the lousy job or the great job. And I find it amazes me that in the area where 87% of the people are bilingual, and in some areas, like in Ghana, 97% of the people living in Ghana are bilingual. Yet, this is the area that has a 20% overrepresentation. It should not be like that. Y'all should be the leaders.
It's also like a lot of it, it has to do with the parents also. I've had parents fill out questionnaires and they're like, well, what's your main child, or what's the language spoken at home? And in Spanish they write Inglés, And I'm like, okay, I don't think it's English, but what can you do? The parent is saying that it's in English, and this little kid obviously does not speak English, but you have parents who want their child to speak English, and they're like, the only way that they're going to speak English is if they're immersed in English-only classrooms, and unfortunately they get lost, I think.
Yeah, and I will tell you, not only from the research, but also from practical application, immersion work, once the student gets into middle school, high school, or as an adult, then you have to do immersion. But when you're talking about them developing language, that whole synapses thing again, you know, the early childhood, first, second grade, you want it bilingual, you want it where they're getting it in English and Spanish. That is the only way you're going to have people that are dominant in both languages. Otherwise, you get people that are kind of sort of decent at the different languages. There's an example that people use with me a lot. I don't speak Spanish at all, but it deals with the carpeta, like calling carpet, carpeta.
Oh, carpeta.
Yeah, and that instead of what?
Alfombra.
Okay. And that's an example. That is taking an English word and making it sound Spanish, but it's not a Spanish word. But yet it's used relatively common around here, or at least that's what people tell me.
I mean, parcadear.
Like text message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different, like, there's
It's
so
a
many
whole
different
language.
Yeah. The next one is voice disorders, which is technically, you know, a speech that is too high or too low. I've had a little kid who, I mean, because they scream a lot, or because he screamed a lot, he developed a really raspy voice, and I'd be like, you know, use your inside voice, and he'd be like, what? And I'm like, you're still screaming. But yeah, children develop voice disorders. A lot of times you have those little kids that haven't, you know, developed, you know, a deeper voice, I guess. You know, they have diploponia, or they have two different pitches. There's a lot of different voice disorders that.
Now, do y'all deal with
Also work.
selective mutism?
Yeah.
Okay, talk a little bit about that.
Selective mutism is when the child is purposely, like, they're mute, but it's like their choice. I had a little girl who, when she was in the classroom, she would not talk at all. But if she was like away from the classroom, she was like normal, you know, she was talking and all this stuff. So when we evaluated her, this little girl doesn't have. But every time any other classmate or any other teacher was in front of her, she wouldn't talk at all.
And who do you think can be blamed for most of the selective mutism found in public schools? Take a wild guess.
Teachers.
Elementary teachers. Why?
Because they never spoke to them?
No,
Or
because
they
they're
never-
jerks to them.
Yeah.
Because they embarrass them, they get in front of them, they're very harsh to them, they're very mean to them, and the kid starts thinking, why the hell should I talk? I just get yelled at, so they stop talking. And then, all of a sudden, it becomes an emotional disturbance that's pinned on the child when it's really the teacher that has, I think, the
Do you think it's
Yes, ma'am.
always like that? Because
not always, I said
Because my
most of the
son-
time.
Because my son, it took him a year in his Sunday school class at church before he started talking.
Did he
with the
start out
teacher.
like that? And I mean, like the first day, was he talking or not
No,
talking?
he didn't talk at all for a whole year, she told me. Like, he would not talk to anyone, maybe his brother, and that was it. And then after a year, he just...
It's almost always a result of fear. Almost
Sometimes
always.
sometimes
Sometimes not.